The work isn't to know better, it's to live better. Take whatever light the language gives and let it guide one small act of care. Righteous willpower isn't about never falling. It's about falling with grace and rising with memory. If tonight you find yourself tired, I want to also invite you to set your armor down and let your will rest. Let stillness also be your next righteous act. And I'll see you back here soon between the words and the wind, lost in the woods, where we keep making language sacred. What's up? What's up? You're tuned in to Lost in the Woods, a place for folks who think in color and walk a little sideways. I don't know where you're listening from, your car, your couch, that walk around the block that you promised yourself you'd take, but I'm glad you're here. You know what I'm talking about? Every episode, we wander through books, music, and memory, trying to find the lessons hiding under the leaves. I'm Dr. Jerid P. Woods, a writer, educator, and reader from Natchez, Mississippi. And today's trail is one I've been carrying in my chest for a long time. What does it mean for a man to not just move, but move with meaning? We're calling this one Righteous Willpower, from wandering to will. So pour your coffee, take a breath, and step with me off the paved road. Let's get lost on purpose. Let's go. Now, when I say lost, I don't mean confused. I mean wandering. Stepping off the straight road they told us was the only way, and finding the trails that books, music, and memory have been trying to show us. See, down here in the South, we know the back roads will take you places that the highway never could. Hip-hop taught me that. A verse, a beat, a book cracked open on the porch. That's where I learned to see the world sideways, to flip what they gave us into something else. That's what we're doing here. Wandering through the written word, through culture, through lived experience. Getting lost on purpose, because that's the only way you discover something bigger than what you were handed. I'm Dr. Jerid P. Woods, and this is Lost in the Woods. Wherever you're listening, Spotify, Apple, Google, or watching the visual on YouTube, I can't thank you enough for walking with me. So like I said earlier, let's get it. I mean, today we got our first solo episode. You know what I'm talking about? So the guest is none other than myself, Dr. Jerid P. Woods, also known as Akili Nzuri. I'm the owner and creator of A Black Man Reading and the podcast Lost in the Woods, where I use literature as a tool for cultural critique, self-discovery, and community building. And yeah, we're about to really get into it, but first I got to give myself some flowers. I mean, is that okay? Is that cool if I give myself some flowers? So for me, I gave myself the sunflower, because the sunflower doesn't just grow, it turns. It follows the light all day long, even when that light feels far away. Its face always is seeking warmth. Its roots are always deep and unmoved. And that's what I hope this work has been, turning towards truth, towards beauty, towards the brilliance in our people while staying rooted in this Mississippi soil. Sunflowers don't just bloom alone either. They rise together with whole fields facing the same direction. And that's how this journey feels to me. We are rising together. We are like a field of sunflowers, right? And so every book, every guest, every conversation here has already been a kind of collective rising for me. So these are my flowers today, the sunflower, right? Faithful, enduring, bright, and standing tall in any season. That reminds me of one of my favorite Nipsey Hussle quotes. Don't ever let no hard time ever make you soft-spoken. Matter of fact, that's not Nipsey. That's actually Deontay Hitchcock. Actually, that's Deontay Hitchcock. Never let any hard times make you seem soft-spoken. And that's the energy I'm bringing into this episode, facing the light even when it's distant. But before we start wandering, I wanted to kind of get us rooted in what I call like an intentional invocation, right? When I think about what it means to be militant with my love, which is something that Bell Hooks kind of admonished me to do when I'm reading her work, and it's something that I think she's admonishing or asking for readers to do. When she wrote these words, it is the most militant, most radical intervention anyone can make to not only speak of love, but to engage in the practice of love. For love, as the foundation of all social movements for self-determination, is the only way we create a world that domination and dominator thinking cannot destroy. And that's where we're starting with love as a discipline, as a practice, and as survival. Because the world keeps trying to convince us that to care is weak, that softness will get you crushed. But what Bell was trying to tell us is that love is the most militant thing that we got left. And so today we're talking about the kind of love that holds us accountable, the kind that makes us face our reflection and still choose to grow. Love that like builds a backbone, right? Love that makes discipline a devotional act. That's the road from wandering to will, like this episode suggests. And every man I know has had a season of wandering, a stretch on the road where you mistake motion for meaning. And that's where we're headed next. So in this episode, we're looking at Song of Solomon, and Guy Johnson's Standing at the Scratch Line, right? I'll show y'all the books later on when we get in there. But in Song of Solomon, Toni Morrison gave us Milkman Dead, a man with rhythm but no root. And Standing at the Scratch Line, though, Guy Johnson gave us King Tremaine, right? Leroy Bordeaux Tremaine, right? A man whose will became his compass. And I haven't been able to stop thinking about this book since I read it the first time. I read it yesterday with my son. We were riding down to Natchez to my mama for a birthday. I read it again with him. And as I was listening and talking to him about the book, I was like, yo, there's something here. And so between these two men lives the question that's been keeping me up at night. How do we as men move from drifting to being deliberate, from just having motion to actually constructing meaning, and from wandering to will, right? And so we're going to walk that path together today, right? So, like I said, I mentor guys all the time, mentor men, boys, whatever, right? I'm mentoring folks all the time. I can't help myself. I literally was just thinking I've got to stop offering unsolicited advice, right? But there are so many of us moving through this world like we don't belong to it. And you'll hear them in Facebook statuses, you know what I mean? They're talking about freedom, but they're really just floating. Moving from woman to woman, from job to job, dream to dream, like they're allergic to grounding themselves or rooting themselves in anything. And when I first met Milkman Dead, I saw that man clear. A man with everything but meaning, born into, money, a name, and a history, even yet untouched by all of it. Raised in a house full of ghosts and still couldn't feel the ancestors breathing through the walls. Milkman spent his life running from his own story as if belonging might burn him. And that felt a little familiar to me because when I look around, I see so many of us haunted by that same distance. So many men, I've talked about it at length, so many men who have a certain brand of masculinity that is outside of themselves and not at all rooted in anything from within. And so with Milkman, we got like rhythm with no root, ambition, but no real aim, and potential, but no real presence, right? And I used to think that was like a certain level of arrogance, but now I know drifting isn't pride. It's something that we're inheriting. It's what happens when the men before you were taught how to survive, but never how to stay. You know what I mean? Never how to like allow themselves to be seen fully, in order to then see themselves fully. And you can't build will when you're always in this constant state of like rebuilding your life, right? And so you also find that you can't find purpose, right? When there's this history of this continuous erasing of the blueprint, right? So, I wonder as a man and try to figure things out. And then I have a son and I don't really teach him how I wander and how I try to figure things out. I just kind of lay things out to him as if I know that this is the way, right? Even though the way has not been properly, put together. Right? Put together into any kind of package that we can actually hand off to someone. So we inherit this wandering, this restlessness dressed up like freedom. We call it independence, but it's loneliness in disguise, right? And Milkman was searching for a flight, but he was really running from what I felt like was the gravity of the situation, from responsibility, from intimacy, from the heavy work of knowing himself. And the world will celebrate the drifter. You know what I mean? The world will celebrate the drifter because it's I don't know. It reminds us somewhat of some of these folks, at least for me, some of these folks I see in like different what is it, like epics, right? Like those epics that I used to like to watch. I think there are certain elements of like the Drifter that I think are good, right? Like if you think about I don't know, like Will Smith's character in I, Robot, there are moments where he's drifting, right? But I've learned a man who needs nothing builds nothing, a man who feels nothing heals nothing, and a man who remembers nothing can't pass anything on. And that, I think, is the tragedy of Milkman Dead. Not that he didn't have wings, but that he didn't know what they were for in the first place. And Flight Without Direction is just falling with style. You know what I mean? And maybe that's what I've been circling too, this feeling that men or yeah, I would say men and boys, this feeling that we're born midair, right? Trying to land without like breaking our entire vessel, right? And that's where, like I said, rooted in me talking to my son and writing, rooted in me talking to so many men about standing at the scratch line, and Song of Solomon. That's where the idea of righteous willpower began for me. This hunger to not just move, but move with meaning and intention. And before we talk about will, we have to honor the wandering. The silence before the song is still part of the music. And Milkman teaches me that drifting is a kind of grief. It's what happens when a man forgets his name, his purpose, and the weight of his people behind him. But what happens when a man remembers that? Right? What happens when he decides to take a stand? Let's talk about will. Let's move into that will segment then. So for me, there's like a peace when a man finds his footing, when he's done kind of drifting and when he acts not out of impulse, but with alignment. And that's where we got to bring in standing at the scratch line, right? King Tremaine moves through that book like a storm with purpose. He's not perfect though, but he's always present. If Milkman was the air, then Tremaine is the iron. He doesn't wait for clarity. He creates clarity. Every decision has a moral backbone. He knows will isn't desire. It's discipline. It's choosing principle when people are watching and when nobody's watching. Similar to what I said in that episode with Kia Layman, when I was saying that we are lauding no malice for these things that we knew men had already, right? Or at least the best of us. They had that already. They chose principle when nobody was watching and when people were watching. Tremaine's world, the world that we find King Tremaine in, is a world that is rough. And I mean rough by all standards, right? There's war, there's betrayal, there's a country that is consistently refusing to see him as a man. I mean, everything is on fire all of the time, right? Both because he did it, both because he's involved, and both because there's a world being wrapped around him that he has to kind of try and figure out. But one thing I think that is very important, or one thing that I think that we can stand to learn there, is that he never lets circumstance erase his code. He lived by self-respect and duty to his people. And that is righteous willpower. Not domination or pride, but power braided with conscience. The kind of strength that echoes through the people you love. He didn't just like build a fire. He built like an order. He moved with a moral architecture. And everyone that is under that umbrella feels the shade of his protection, of his tenderness, of his care. And that's what men crave. Not applause, but assurance that what they do matters. Sometimes my spirit whispers, move like a builder, not a wanderer. Move like you're preparing the next man's foundation. Will without righteousness can build empires, but they crumble from the inside. And Milkman wanted freedom from the world, but Tremaine wanted freedom from within, right? Because when you're faced with that type of chaos, it's obvious the world is not going to offer you freedom, right? And yet some of us must still be free, right? And so I just think that when you have these two characters juxtaposed against each other, you just have a wonderful opportunity to understand what discovery, right? Like I feel like Milkman represents what discovery can be also, and then Tremaine is what practice devotion offers. So somewhere between these two men lies the map to a spiritual adulthood that I want to offer us. Right? I feel like will isn't born, it's forged. It comes from failure and rising with intention. And every righteous man I know was shaped not by victory, but how he carried his losses and responded to them. And that's why I say righteous willpower is also not about control, but a certain level of consistency, a consistency when it comes down to the daily decision to stay aligned, when the ego wants us to drift and fear wants us to flee. And Tremaine had that same stubborn code that I'm alluding to in what I was just saying, because he didn't ask for perfection. What he asked for was purpose, and he built it with one act at a time. He knew will without righteousness is nothing but chaos, but righteousness but righteous will, righteous willpower turns a man into an entire movement, right? And maybe that's what we're all trying to find, a will that's not just powerful, but also holy, a strength that serves a purpose and sustain. Righteous willpower doesn't live in isolation. It grows in brotherhood and community, in the shared work of remembering who we are. And that's the bridge, I think, that's the bridge from will to like righteousness, and then from just righteousness to the manifestation of righteous willpower, right? Now, there's a moment between will and surrender where a man stops fighting to be powerful and starts learning to be present. And that's where righteousness lives, not in the noise, but in the quiet precision of choice. When I say righteous, I don't mean perfect. I mean aligned, right size with your own spirit. It's strength that hums instead of shouts. It feeds others by just literally standing near. And I remember that we would, on my old podcast, we would sometimes have disagreements about what like righteousness is. I remember, my interlocutor there was saying that, sometimes he felt that the presentation of righteousness sometimes is like not, what's the word I'm looking for? Genuine, right? And I think that, for me personally, that's a kind of work that I'm not really interested in doing, because the kind of genuineness that I want to be aligned with, or like I said, stand near to, doesn't have to be I don't know, polished or anything like that, because it is good. It is good by virtue of its own existence. You know what I mean? It's seeking out a certain level of righteousness just by virtue of its own existence. No difference from what most of the evil manifests, or how most of the evil manifests itself in our everyday life. And so, yeah, I just feel also that, like I said, no man becomes righteous by himself. It's always done in brotherhood and community, with others, and in community with your immediate local community. Let's see here. I want to move into a new space here. I want to talk a little bit about like the compassion as well. We've been taught that righteousness is like a judgment, but I'm learning also from King Tremaine that it's not that. It's more so a practice, right? He calls people up. By his moral framework, these are things that people should want to do, because they not only love themselves, but they love the people that mean the most to them. And so he calls people up. And if you cannot reach that level, right, then he doesn't want to deal with you. And so maybe it's to remember also, though, that Milkman's story is also a story of self-discovery, right? I think his journey is still equally important. And I think I've been kind of giving him more of a bad rap because King Tremaine is my favorite of the two. But I want to say that in order for me to get to being the King Tremaine in my life, I had to be Milkman. I had to have those trials, right? And I might not have came out of them like King Tremaine, right, every time. However, even in those losses, I was able to find something that would allude or push me towards being King Tremaine like. So I do want to shoot Milkman some bail in that regard, right? And so I think it's important that we remember that both of these men have the ability to live inside of us. That there's space for both the wanderer and the builder, the lost boy and the faithful man. Righteousness is when they finally start talking to each other, though. And some nights I pray to be steady like Tremaine, and other nights I pray to keep searching like Milkman, but searching in the right direction with intentionality, right? A man in motion toward love is already righteous, even if he hasn't arrived yet. And wherever you are, if you're feeling adrift, remember your will is sacred material. So shape it, temper it, let it bend towards service, because we know kings serve, which is one of my favorite things. And when will becomes righteous, the world begins to heal through you. And that's what I mean by righteous willpower. It's not about control, but about communion, strength that keeps time with the heartbeat of your people. And that is I guess my TED Talk, right, for today's solo episode. You know what I'm talking about? That's what it's going to be. I have always wanted to have like some type of mental health element to the things that I produce. And so on a solo episode, I thought it would be the perfect place to insert this call to arms to do some type of self-work or self-love together. So what I'll say is I want you to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Allow your shoulders to drop and ask yourself, which version of me am I still afraid to sit with in silence? Don't chase an answer, just listen. Stillness isn't absence of work, it's the beginning of hearing. A restless man can't hear his spirit. A still man starts to remember. Sit with that rising, or sit with whatever is rising within you. No fixing, no performance, just air and grace. The reason I chose this particular little exercise is because I recently was able to spend some time with one of my cool frat brothers from New York, Rel Hughes, and he was asking me about my relationship with meditation. And what I was telling him is I came to meditation from reading the Bible and reading about how the men in the Bible would contemplate before they would have to like do something big. And you juxtapose that through ancient African spiritual technologies that I saw, from comedic science to some of the ways that EFA practitioners meditate, and even thinking about like Trisha Hersey's work has added a whole lot right now or in recent years to my meditative practice. But that's where I started. I started trying to imitate like those holy men that would contemplate. And so I would pray. I would pray for 5 minutes is the first way that I would reach out to start my meditative practice. And then I would try to extend it out to 10 minutes. And then I would try guided meditation, which was pretty good. The six phase method by Vishen. Just type in 6-phase method and Vishen, and it should pull up. Is something else that I've used, but the most important meditation method for me is just witness meditation, where I just sit in silence and witness myself being. That doesn't require me silencing my thoughts. That doesn't require me praying. That just requires me being okay with sitting with myself, feeling the creaks of my body, and allowing the thoughts to run, slow down, speed up, go, do, and be whatever they want to be. And that allows me to be so much more poised every day. And I think that is so super duper important, especially for men. With an episode like this that's so like kind of male dominated in what it hopes to achieve for men. I think that's super important as well. Also, so we're heading to the 3x3 challenge. One book that's shaping me, one piece of film or a show that's shaping me, or whatever, right? There's 3 on 3. So the first thing is the book that's shaping me is, what is it? Echoes of a Distant Summer by Guy Johnson. That's what I'm reading now, which is the sequel to Standing at the Scratch Line. And of course, for obvious reasons, I want to see how King Tremaine affects Jackson, his grandson. And what that looks like, because obviously we all, at least me right now, I come from men like that, right? And I am, for all intents and purposes, him, the grandson, right? And I'm trying to figure out and reconcile a certain type of masculinity with a new one, right? So I'm taking the things that I love from King Tremaine and then adding these newer things, right? And so I would say then the film that's shaping me, what is the film? Oh, I just watched Limitless. Oh my God. I loved every moment of it. I've watched Limitless before, but the concept of unlocking the rest of your brain power is just everything for me. And I actually took some notes this time. I had some really, really cool notes. Let me see if I got them. I can pull them up real quick. And, is it here? No. So we'll have to find those later some other time. But yeah, check out Limitless. I was on Limitless recently, and that was everything. And they have a TV show version of it too that you can find, and it's supposed to be coming with a new film. But shows, oh my God, I've been watching Halo, y'all, and me and my wife are absolutely addicted to Halo, and we are absolutely upset, and we are willing to use whatever powers that we have to bring them back for a season 3. And we don't have a lot of power, so we're gonna have to deal with the fact that it's gone. The other show that I'm watching is Foundation. I love that. To Smithereens. And yeah, those are the shows that are kind of like really, really rocking my socks right now. Yeah. All right. So I am super duper excited to add this to the equation, y'all. This is my next new part for solo episodes. So every novel has got a cipher, you know what I'm saying? And today I'm here to name the top 5 dead or alive, the characters who move like rappers, who talk like they got verses hidden in their scars. So today we're mixing Toni Morrison's Song of Solomon with Guy Johnson standing at the scratch line. So let's see who's been spitting the realest bars between those pages. At number 5, we've got Hagar. Summer Walker meets Lauryn Hill. Heartbreak with Harmony. Hagar loved Milkman like he was a mixtape that never dropped. She kept replaying the same pain, hoping for a remix. She's pure emotion, melody turned martyr. If Lauryn had written X Factor in a southern attic with a love letter burning in her hand, that would be Hagar's verse. Now, at number 4, I got my homie Guitar Baines, Kendrick Lamar, right? He is a philosopher with a pistol. Guitar sees injustice and turns it into doctrine. A man convinced vengeance is the only language power understands. He's good kid, mad system, a lyrical mind drowning in rage. If Kendrick's The Black of the Berry ever picked up a rifle, it would move just like Guitar Baines. At number 3, we've got Pilot Dead, Missy Elliott mixed with the Holy Ghost. Unorthodox, untouchable, and moving by her own rhythm. No belly button, no boundaries, no problem. I felt like that was a cool way for Morrison to play with Pilot's birth, but now I would just assume she's had a tummy tuck, and that makes me a little sad. Pilot lives like the beat and doesn't need a hook like Murphy Lee, you know what I'm talking about? She's what happens when creativity becomes spirituality, mixing survival into something sacred. See energy all day long, avant-garde, ancestral, and unapologetically black woman magic. Now, at number 2, we've got the homie Milkman Dead. That's right, we're gonna pair him with Drizzy Drake, Aubrey Graham. Yeah, I said it. He's emotionally adrift. He's a soft flex philosopher, a smooth talker who mistakes motion for growth. Milkman is that man who got everything except anchoring. He's introspection with trust issues. Drake on take care energy, looking for roots while bragging about wings. The album be fire, but the therapy is still pending. Now, at number 1, we got the homie, King Tremaine. And we're going to put him down with Nipsey Hussle. The blueprint mindset, discipline as doctrine. King Tremaine builds empires brick by brick, knowing legacy ain't luck, it's labor. He's the man who believes structure is a love language. If the marathon continues, wore suspenders and a sidearm, it'd be King Tremaine. You know what I'm talking about? So yeah, you can't even play with that. So there you have it. Pilot flying without wings, Tar plotting revolutions, Milkman journaling his confusion, King Tremaine stacking discipline on devotion, and Hagar still trying to love the world back to balance. That's your top 5 dead or alive. Every book has got a soundtrack, and sometimes that soundtrack be in 2 books. We gonna find it. These are the verses I hear between the pages. Now, every time I finish a reflection like this, I remind myself the work isn't to know better, it's to live better. To take whatever light the language gives and let it guide one small act of care. Righteous willpower isn't about never falling. It's about falling with grace and rising with memory. If tonight you find yourself tired, I want to also invite you to set your armor down and let your will rest because you've done enough. Let stillness also be your next righteous act. And I'll see you back here soon between the words and the wind, lost in the woods, where we keep making language sacred. This has been Lost in the Woods. I'm Dr. Jerid P. Woods, and I want to remind you still that wandering is still something that matters. The straight road only leads you back where they want you to be. The woods hold stories, songs, and lessons. Books and music are the portals that lets us find them. So don't be afraid to be a wanderer. Just wander with a little intention. You know what I'm saying? Like we said in the episode today. And don't be afraid to get lost, because out here in the woods, you don't just find the world, you find yourself and you find your people. Until next time, keep reading, keep listening, keep wandering. And if you forget everything else from this episode, remember this: wandering is holy. The woods always lead you home if you approach them with intent.